Hello, brilliant entrepreneur. It's Tash Corbin here, and welcome to another episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. This is episode number 345, which means you can find all the relevant links and show notes for today's episode over at tashcorbin.com/345. In today's episode, I'm joined by the amazing Emily Osmond, and this conversation took a little bit of a turn, but it was such a brilliant one. So we started off talking about Instagram, why it's so helpful and valuable, some strategies to think of, and some common mistakes. But then we also had a bigger conversation about building a business that aligns with your goals and your lifestyle, how to deal with some of the guilt and comparisonitis that comes when you need to take some time off from your business or you're not as focused on your business as you might normally be, and also just really shaping your business model to work to your strengths and what you want to achieve and what your goals for your lifestyle are, not just your financial goals. So I think you'll find this really, really valuable. There were some vulnerable moments. There were some really honest shares from both of us. So I hope you find this really helpful. Make sure that if you've listened to this episode, that you get in touch with both Emily and I. If you've got any questions, you can slide into our DMs, or if you just want to give us a little feedback or let Emily know you found the episode helpful. And do make sure you come and check out the show notes as well, because I've got a link to Emily's freebies page, which is really cool, and there's some really great resources there, links to all of our socials, but also some information about the Heart-Centered Business Conference and how you can get $50 off your ticket. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Emily and Tash. I'm Tash Corbin, and this is the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another spotlight on the Heart-Centered Soul-Driven Entrepreneurs. Well, that's not the name of my podcast. Business podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another spotlight episode of the Heart-Centered Business Podcast. I'm joined today by the amazing Emily Osmond. Welcome, Emily.
Oh, Tash, thank you so much. I adore chatting with you. I have so much respect for you, so I'm excited to get to hang out and have a good conversation.
Absolutely. For those of you who don't know Emily, she actually has two brilliant programs. One of them is called the Modern Marketing Collective, which I am a member of, and Emily helps people in that program to be sold out and really get their business off the ground, bringing in customers and grow their presence on social media, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm in there because Emily is my go-to person for Instagram strategy, and she's always got her finger on the pulse. And then her other program, Scalable, is about leveraging your time, creating a scalable product so that you can make more money in less time, which is also very cool and something we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely.
So Emily is going to be one of our speakers at the Heart-Centered Business Conference in 2023, and she is going to be talking about Instagram. So Emily, why don't we start off with that? What is the appeal of building a presence and an audience on Instagram?
Yeah, sure thing. I think it's really interesting, Tash, because a few years ago, I was educating people about like what Instagram is, and yes, you should be on there. It was kind of like people were on Facebook and they just couldn't quite get their head around Instagram. Now I think that's really changed for the majority of people and business owners, and they totally like, yeah, I see how Instagram's being used. I'm using it myself personally, so now my business is on there. And so a lot of what I do now is helping people understand how to use it in the most time-effective way so that we're not wasting time with our content on there. I think the appeal is that it's just so powerful in terms of as consumers. I know that like my behavior is to go on Instagram to look up a business. And often do you find this as well, Tash, when you meet someone, it's like, hey, what's your Instagram? I'll follow you on there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I've definitely seen a shift in that in in-person events where it used to be sort of 50% Instagram, 50% Facebook.
Or business card, even.
Yeah, or
physical.
Card.
Yeah. And now it's like, oh, what's your Instagram? I went to I spoke at an event the other day, and they did a business card kind of drawer where everyone goes around, put their business card in. And 50%, I would say, of the business cards were actually pieces of paper that people had ripped off and written their details on, because I think the shift is away from that physical thing to, it's like, oh, check out my Instagram.
Yeah.
And who knows? And the thing is as well, and hopefully you know this about me too, Tash, is that I'm not attached to a platform, but I'm just attached to what is going to be a good investment of a very limited time as sole traders and small business owners. And at the moment, Instagram is still pretty powerful for that. It's something, like I said, that a lot of people will go and look up a business once they hear about a business, just to see, okay, let me get a snapshot of what it's all about. What are the photos looking like? What can I learn about this business? Where we will go and connect with people once we've met them somewhere and give them a follow. And then the beauty of that as well is when you follow someone, you're then showing Instagram that you're interested in them, and you'll see most of their content pop up straight away. So it's a really good one if you are connecting and networking, to make sure that you're really strategic with the content you have there, because then when someone follows you, maybe they've heard your podcast, they met you in an event, they heard you wherever it was, they'll follow you, then they'll start seeing some of your content straight away, because that's how Instagram works. So like, this person must be interested. So it can give you pretty quick returns in terms of people then seeing your content and just being smart about what we're doing on there, having those call to actions as to where do we want people to go next. And I think as well, it's just one part of the strategy. I don't think reels are going to be the only thing that you can do for your business. And you don't even have to do reels. And this is a bit of a polarizing thing, but my belief is that there's no one thing that you have to do. It's like, figure out what fits with you, figure out what it is that you want to be doing, and you can make it work. And some of the biggest business owners in the world, some of the mentors that I follow, they're not doing Instagram reels, and their businesses are like huge and amazing. So don't ever feel that there's one thing that you have to do. But it's just looking at, okay, what's working, what suits me, what do I want to invest my time in, and then go for it and have fun and experiment with it.
I love that so much. And I also find one of the other things that I find with Instagram is that the shareability of content, especially when you're tagged, means that things are far more likely to be reshared and reshared. So like, if I'm tagged in something on Instagram, I can share it to my stories instantly, like 2 clicks and it's done. Whereas some of the stuff that I get tagged in on Facebook, being able to share it, it's not as common a practice. And so, I find that really interesting about Instagram is if I'm reading a book and I tag the author, often they'll put my feedback in their stories or those sort of things. So it's more networked, I think, in terms of accessing each other's audiences.
Definitely.
As well.
Oh, can I add to that as well, Tash? Because one of the features that's a relatively new one that is really good for this and the collaborations and getting in front of each other's audiences, which is such a great way to grow, is through the adding a collaborator to your post. So I can imagine at your conference, you could be like, hey, everyone, tag me, like tag you, Tash, in your post, add me as a collaborator on the post, and then it will appear on your profile and their profile if you want to accept it. And so you're just getting, because I'm seeing reels or posts pop up on my feed that from people that I don't follow, because they have tagged in someone that I do follow. And so I'm then getting exposed to this new brand or this new person, seeing some great content there. And I really like that. I really like the way that that's kind of working. And as long as it's good content and interesting, which it typically is if it's getting shown in the feed because other people have found it interesting, so Instagram's going to show it. I think it's a really great way that we can jump on board and get in front of existing audiences that might have people that might like what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. That collaborator function is definitely something I'm playing with for conference speakers. Even. So, the conference speakers don't have to create and share the content themselves. They just have to accept the collaboration.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
I'm making it easier for speakers to be able to help spread the word about conference as well. So there's lots to love about Instagram. I mean, the visual nature of Instagram also lends itself to certain types of businesses and personal brands, and ones where you are the face of your business is in that. It's not just about product businesses or clothing, those sorts of things, but actually for service businesses, Instagram can be really powerful because we're seeing your face and your brand quite consistently.
Yes.
So, Emily, what do you think are some of the assumptions or mistakes that people make when they think about Instagram strategy?
Yeah. Yeah, sure thing. I think that one of the things that they do is look at what other people are doing and then think that they have to be doing the exact same thing when it doesn't resonate with them. Something else is that they feel like they should be posting more than that they are, and they get up in their head and feel bad about themselves and think that I need to be more consistent. But really you can have success on there with a handful of posts a week and that type of thing. It doesn't have to be 3 posts a day or anything like that, especially with the algorithm. If you open up your Instagram, you can see posts that have been around for 12 hours, 24 hours, sometimes a couple of days that are still showing up the top of the feed based on when you were last on there, based on what Instagram thinks you want to see as well. So it kind of takes that pressure off, I think. I think that as small business owners, sole traders, there is a sense of that constant pressure of I should be putting more out there. I'm not doing enough. I should be more consistent. So I really want people to remove that and know that it's totally okay. You can get great cut through and great results without having to share heaps and heaps of content. Something else is, I guess, getting caught up on, oh, hang on, there's this new update or new feature or new function. And the way that I approach Instagram is just to understand how marketing works first and foremost, understanding the core concepts of marketing, which I know you're very much about, Tash, understanding what is going to compel people to take action, what is going to build that connection with your audience, which is a few things here, like actually showing up. Can we hear your voice through your Instagram? Can we see what you like, see your mannerisms, especially as service-based businesses or online course creators? Like, people want to get a sense of you and feel like this person gets me, feel as though they can trust you. So sharing some of you on there, sharing touches of credibility, maybe the number of podcast downloads you've had or awards, or that you're speaking somewhere, just positions you as an expert. Sharing value. Why is someone going to follow us? What is it in it for them? What are they going to get out of our content? How can we delight them or inspire them or give them some helpful tips or hints? And then also, what are we actually trying to achieve on there? How are we tying Instagram in with our goals? And that's about actually promoting and talking about what we sell and how people can buy from us, which is an interesting thing. I think that we can feel like I'm not allowed to do that, or I don't want to come across as salesy. But that's what I really recommend to people, without getting too caught up in, oh, hang on, there's this new filter or there's this new effect that I can do. That's not going to make or break your business. But understanding, it comes back to those 4 key types of content that I just spoke through: the connection piece, the credibility piece, the value piece, and the promotion piece. And that's like across every channel, every part of your marketing. If you can just come back to these and think, how am I addressing these through Instagram, then it's going to set you up really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big things for me in hearing you talk about Instagram strategy that was a relief was that you don't have to do the dancing and pointing stuff. You don't have to do the lip syncing over popular sounds and trends and those sorts of things. And in fact, for me, whilst playing with some of those is fun and can get more views on those reels or get more engagement, most of that engagement is irrelevant to my business. Most of that reach is irrelevant to my business because it's just because it's trending that it's being shown to all these extra people. Those people aren't my ideal clients. Those people aren't necessarily going to follow me. And so, you know, I love the way that you teach things like just show up with your voice. Talk about something you want to share and help people with, because that's creating far more connection with your audience. And if your audience engage with it, it does still get good reach, and it still goes to other audiences and to new people, but it's going to new people with something relevant, not going to new people with some random sassy saying or something along those lines. So I think that's really, like, for a lot of people, that comes as a relief, because some of the fear around Instagram is, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to learn the dances on TikTok. I'm going to.
You really don't.
But you really have to do this.
Like, and do what's fun. For some people, they love that. Yeah, and that's awesome. Like, go for it. Something on that, Tash, actually, is I've had a couple of conversations with people that are in a more, I guess, sensitive subject matter with their work. They might be counselors and that type of thing. And so what they put out there, like they're doing this one of fellow member, putting great content out there. But she's just naturally not going to get a whole lot of engagement back when she's talking about more sensitive subject matters. People aren't necessarily probably going to say, oh, this really resonates, or yeah, I'm totally going through this, Yeah. And we can also keep in mind and take the pressure off. It doesn't have to always be getting huge engagement.
Yeah.
But if you are seeing an increase in sales through through your business, and that can be an indication that it's working, and actually tracking back where the sales are coming from. Because if you see the business is growing, even if you're not seeing necessarily you're getting huge likes, huge comments on your posts, but you have a way of tracking and asking people, where did you find me? That can be it can kind of show that Instagram's working and you're putting out that good content, you're showing up, you're talking, you're sharing advice, you're sharing some of your own personality. Even if you aren't getting that necessarily on the post itself, it can still be so, so powerful. So I want people not to forget about that. And also the other thing that's happening is that conversation on social platforms are more and more going into the private realm.
Yeah.
And it's like, Tash, I don't know if you used to do this, but when I was at uni, so I don't know, how long ago was that? Ages ago. I used to write on people's Facebook walls, hey, how was your day? So good to see you last night, whatever it might be, like on their profile. And we just don't do that anymore. The conversation has gone from that very public sphere to more the private sphere. And so on Instagram as well, you may find more and more that you put content out there, but people will then DM you as well.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
My key measures on Instagram is DMs, because that's where the connection happens, but also I can share links there. And that's where most of my traffic to my website from Instagram comes from DMs.
So good, Tash.
So it's good to be able to see that and know that there's not one measure of success on Instagram, but the higher connection and the higher the relationship that you're building, the more likely that is to turn into someone who's going to be an active audience member. So
and you can even see that under each post. If you do view insights, then people can see, okay, well, I got a lot of people sending that, the little paper airplane. It's like, okay, how many people sent that on to other people? How many people saved it? And you might find a discrepancy. I often do between the post that got lots of comments versus the post that got heaps of saves. So just like you've said, Tash, take those different metrics into account as well, and just be aware of and across, okay, what's happening on this content, what do people want to see more of based on those different measures.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've had a little chat about the current trends on Instagram. Before we move on, I want to also pick your brain about leveraging and scalability. So before we move on to that, is there any other advice or hot tips or trends that you're seeing on Instagram that people could maybe have a play with or pay attention to?
So good. I think it's a matter of experimenting continuously. I think, I know that Instagram actually came out and said, look, we probably over-indexed videos a little bit and reels a little bit. So feel free and feel like you have total permission to stick with some of the graphic posts, with some of the static posts, experiment with some of the carousels as well. They're a good way to give that information in the actual post itself versus in the caption. And I really like the creativity that you can do with that in terms of really clear content on those slides. When you're sliding through those different carousel posts, you're going to have your key points in really nice graphics there. I really like that. I think the collaboration function is a really, really smart one, and looking at how you can leverage that for your business. What else? I think as well, looking at I guess Instagram stories as well, they pop up at the top of the feed. There's something that you're going to be keeping people coming back to your content as well. It's pretty smart to, if you can, get some stories up there, because if you're up there and people are tapping and looking, then you're also going to have your post shown in the feed as well. So, and that's been around for ages. And I say with the Instagram stories side of things is you don't have to try and think of content to create there. but just share what you're doing during the day. So it's like, hey, I'm sitting down with Tash. We're going to do a podcast interview right now. Can't wait to speak at her conference, and just tell people what you're up to. It doesn't have to be sitting down and thinking, right, what's something that I can create to actually share here. I just find that helps people to get into the actual sharing mode as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I find the more that I'm sharing what I'm up to in stories, the more that people are used to watching those things. So when I am in launch promoting something and I do a story that's more promotional, I'm getting far more people watching that because they're so used to checking.
That is so true.
Sharing, at other times. It feels a bit more personal in stories too.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, Tash, around sharing all the time, not just when we are in launching or sales as well. Definitely.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so you've recently had a little baby. And I remember when we met at the Rose Farm in 2020, one of the things that you talked about was freedom and building a business where you had that leverage, and a lot of that freedom was so important to you. So I feel like you're someone who's very intentionally built your business model. So I'd love to hear, like, what were some of the things that drove you to making those decisions, and how did you create such a leveraged and scalable business?
Yeah, thanks, Tash. I guess it started by creating a business that wasn't that leveraged and realizing that that was my initial goal, and I created it, but then it wasn't really right for me. And then kind of going through a tricky period of being like, well, what is it that I want? Like, I have my own business, but I don't really feel that happy or fulfilled. Like, this sucks. Why I don't want to keep going like this, because I should be in control here of what I'm doing, and I should be able to enjoy most aspects of the business. And right now I'm not. So I started out, and I was, basically just said yes to everything, which I think is a good way to go when you're starting. You get heaps of experience. And I soon realized the type of work that I liked. I was always been in the marketing space. So I was doing a mixture of things, some copywriting contracts, event marketing contracts, some strategy sessions with small business owners. And before I switched my business models, I would say the bulk of the work was some branding, brand strategy, and brand design packages and website packages. And I had some designers that were contractors and helped do the work in terms of the actual design, and had, like, they were multiple thousands of dollars contracts. So nice meaty contracts, great clients. There was no real issues, just that I felt like it wasn't what I was meant to be doing. And I did look forward, and I've always wanted to be a mum. And I looked forward and I thought, well, this isn't really, I can't really see this happening with me being a mum necessarily. This feels like quite, needs a lot of my time, I think, and continuous input and being at the computer. And I think there's options there, and there's stories there too, because I think I totally could have made it work if I wanted to. Like, people make every business work, but there was also the part of me that just felt like it wasn't fully what I was meant to be doing. And so I gave myself 6 months, had about 6 months of work booked up. And I thought, right, I'm not going to take on any more work. I'm just going to let this play out and give myself a bit of space to think and try and figure out what it is that I want to do. And I had always known about online programs, but I guess I just didn't think that was something I could do. I'd only really seen examples of Americans doing them. People that seem to have much bigger personalities than me. I'm naturally an introvert, which I know you're probably like, what? Because you're an extrovert and you love, like, and I'm quite a social person, but I'm also like a total homebody as well. And I just don't like consider myself to have a big personality. If I'm out in a group, I kind of like, oh God. Anyway, so a few different things. I'm like, I don't know if that's something I can do. And obviously, like, I don't have a big audience. I was just kind of didn't have the audience that I've grown now, which is not huge still, but, bigger. Anyway, I heard an American being interviewed on a podcast about how she had built this membership program, and she said that she was quite introverted. And it just caught my attention. I thought, well, hang on a minute. This lady's like done it. She's doing really, really well. maybe there is something that I can do here. Maybe I can do this. And for me, I loved the idea. And I also, sorry, I'm rambling here, but I also went back and looked at, okay, what are all the different revenue streams in my business? What are all the different things that I'm offering? What are the percentage that they're bringing into my business? Put it in a spreadsheet. And then, like, how do I feel about each of those offerings? Do I enjoy them? Do I love them? Do I find them a bit like energy depleting? And it was really clear to me that my favorite things were when I ran workshops, because I ran in-person workshops teaching small business owners Instagram and content strategy, and that I also loved doing the strategy sessions with business owners. So I thought, right, there's something here about, I love the teaching, I love the sharing ideas, and I love bringing people together. And so I had a free Facebook group at the time, had about 700 people in there, I think it was. And I was basically running a free membership. People could be in there. I gave them weekly advice. And I thought, right, well, let's put it out to them and see what they would be interested in. And I put a survey just with a few different options. What are you interested in? Maybe this course, maybe this event, maybe this retreat, maybe a membership. And at the same time, I didn't really want to create membership because it seemed really, really scary to me. Like, what if I don't know the answer to what people are asking me? What if there's just like so many questions I can't keep up? But there was a pretty clear indication that people were interested in ongoing monthly, basically access to strategies and be able to ask questions and that type of thing. And I'm pretty quick at taking action. And so I think it was only like a month later or a few weeks later or something, I figured out Kajabi. I put my program out there, didn't really know anything about launching or anything. Did a 5-day email series at the advice of a really good business coach. So I joined her program and she's like, oh, you probably want to do like something before you just say, hey, join my membership. Yep. So I did that. And that's been 4.5 years ago or so. And I've just had that same program, and that's the Modern Marketing Collective. And for me, it has just like, I just adore it. I love that it allows me to do the work that feels really in flow to me. I love, which is the supporting people and inspiring and connecting people and creating that community and like helping people. Yeah. Answering questions, yep. Helping people be like, well, is that true? Like, what about this strategy? If you tried this, what are you doing? Let's talk about that. Sharing strategies in there and some live events, bringing people together. I love that it like helps people and I see their transformations and I see like what it does for them and their businesses. Even if like we've had a couple of Facebook conversations and it's like, wow, they're getting so much out of this, the trainings that are there and being part of that community. It doesn't have to be fully me one-on-one sitting down for a day with them. Like they're still getting such awesome results. And then I love that it allows me to have most of the time pretty low stress business and life. And that's just super important to me. I don't want to be feeling hectic. I don't want to look at my diary and have back to back meetings or coaching calls or that type of thing. It's just not what I want. I think I need quite a lot of downtime. And now that I have a 6-month-old or a 7-month-old Lando, it has allowed me to keep that membership happening, to keep having the revenue coming in. It's not by any means like I'm not smashing out of the park right now. It's not growing massively because I'm not doing much work in the business, but it's still there. People are still getting results. I'm still doing a coaching call once a week or so. The revenue is still coming in and yeah, it just works for me. And that's the thing. I figured out what I want and what works for me. And that's going to be totally different for everyone. And I'm a big advocate of like anything can work. And there's no one right way to do things. And there's no one right business model. Because I know other people like love stuff that I don't love. And sometimes I find myself being like, oh, maybe I should be doing that. Like shiny object syndrome or like, oh, other people are doing this. But then I've just got to remember, okay, no, I don't actually want that. What do I want? What feels good to me? What's the bigger vision? So, yeah.
Yeah. And so did you find that I mean, first of all, I just want to say, it's going to be so reassuring to people to hear some of those like challenges that you had and some of those hesitations, because I think also people who see you online would think you're a natural presenter, right? You're naturally just so good at what you do. And I think it's such a good reality check to hear people honestly share, I had never seen anyone but Americans do it, or I didn't think I had a big enough personality, or you know, all of those sorts of things. And I felt exactly the same way with some of my shifts in my business as well, because I didn't want to be a manager of lots and lots of
Yes,
people. So
that
building
was me
a team
too.
was really
Yeah.
hard, you know. And I think sometimes we just make assumptions. People would
Yeah.
assume you just are so confident. People would assume
Mm,
you just know how to do things. You
mm,
know, there's none of that like challenge and imposter syndrome and all of those
yeah.
sorts of things happening behind the scenes.
But there still is. Like, that's one of the biggest things I think I struggle with.
Yeah.
Really, is like perfectionism, I think. And then I
Mm,
see other people doing things. I'm like, oh my God, why aren't I just doing it? Like, it doesn't have to be like, what am I doing? Just do it. It's fine. Just do it. And definitely the imposter syndrome still, like,
mm.
really, it doesn't mean that people that you see don't have these things. I think it's just that we still take some actions, not all the actions that we want to take necessarily, but still do these things, even though it's like,
Yeah. And there
do
are
I actually know stuff? Am I good?
You're amazing, Emily. If we have to tell you over and again, we will. But I think also lots of people have different reasons for
Mm,
not necessarily going all out and
yeah.
working the 10-hour days and all that sort of thing. Like I've even had
Yes.
that myself with
Oh my gosh.
being away for the last 2 years,
Yeah.
really, after my surgery in
Mm,
2021. It's taken me a long time to get back to even 10, 12 hours a week. And
yeah.
so seeing other people sharing in their
Mm,
Instagram stories, like, I've
mm,
got 3 podcasts and 4 client sessions
yeah.
and blah, blah, blah today, like it makes me feel exhausted just
Yeah.
reading through what people are doing on a
Yes.
day-to-day basis. But I also do
Yeah.
often think,
Mm,
man, I'm not doing enough, or man,
yes.
like
Well, we can just console each other there,
I
Tash.
know we totally can, Em. And I have to keep reminding myself, just like you said, like
Mm,
that's not what I want. I don't
yeah.
want to do 10-hour days. I don't
Yeah.
want to have back-to-back meetings. I feel
Mm,
guilty that I don't a lot of the time. And I think that can sometimes be money
mm,
mindset and
yeah.
mindset blocks because we feel like we have to earn it and we have to work
Yeah.
hard and all of those sorts of things. But I would much rather this gradual, consistent growth of my
Mm,
business, doing it the lazy way, doing it in a very boundaried
yeah.
way. It's that FOMO sometimes of like, am I being left
Yeah.
behind?
Yeah.
Or, you know, like that whole leaving money on the table
Yeah.
thing and feeling guilty
Definitely.
about it. But honestly, I think it's great for us to have these
Mm,
conversations because there are so many people who they have a chronic condition or they have kids or it's
yes.
not a growth phase of their business right now, or you know they're caring for someone, or they just
Elderly parents, grandkids, just want to travel.
like it doesn't even have to be
Yeah.
an external reason. Some people
Yeah.
just really value freedom. And
Yes.
so having that comparison to other
Mm,
people and the big days that they're doing,
mm,
it's hard and it's tricky
yeah.
sometimes to remind yourself and remember what you want. Um,
Absolutely.
is there anything that you use or
Yeah.
anything that you do to really like get yourself out of that
This is
comparisonitis?
this is so perfect, Tash, literally this morning. I feel like, and I said this before we hit record, but I have felt like I haven't had a lot of time to just think and think deeply
Mm,
lately. And it's been like my hand's been pretty full. I've kind of been full-time mum mode.
yeah.
And Coat, like, so my partner has Lando at the minute downstairs as we do this, and then I'll have him back. And I've got trackies on the bottom half. I'm like, it doesn't matter. She's only going to see the top half. It's all good. Then I'll swap my top and get vomited on again. Bye, baby. But this morning when Lando was sleeping, I knew I'd have about an hour, and there's people that I need to write back to on the email. There's things I want to do for the business. But I actually just wanted to like think about the bigger picture and what am I wanting here, and what is like even about, because we're just renting at the minute. We built a house last year over the past few years sold it, and just even looking at where do I like, what am I working towards, where do we want to live, what does the life look like, and just like what, sinking into that again
Yeah.
and really like feeling it and stepping through. And so for that hour when Lando was sleeping, instead of doing anything, like with my hands and the laptop, I put on some meditation music, which is very rare for me. I used to do it and then I got out of the habit of it. And I just kind of like thought about, and then started like researching schools and houses and started following accounts in local areas that I thought, actually, I think this would be a really nice place to live. So I went and followed some local accounts to get them in my Instagram feed. But I think that's what we got to do. When
Yes.
we lose sight, it's probably because we don't have a minute just to actually sit and think about it. Or if it's going on a walk and thinking about it,
Mm.
distraction free. And I know that I can have the habit of kind of like stuffing my brain I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, but I got to have a podcast on and listen while I'm doing something else, while I'm reading a book. Like, just get all the information in there and learn and learn and learn. And I'm like, hang on a minute, right now, I just want to let my mind think.
Yes.
So yeah, I think
I love that.
That's kind of one of the only ways, is to give myself that space to tap back into it and think about, what am I doing this for? What's the goal? What am I working towards? What do I really want? Jotting things down. I find journaling super easy and ridiculously annoying that it's so easy, because I go round and round in my mind about things, and then I'll be like, right, I heard journaling's meant to be good. I know that you do it, Tash. I'm like, right, okay, fine, I'll journal. And I start writing and I'm like, oh, that was easy. Yeah, it's just become really, really clear to me about what I want and what I want to do. And okay, yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'm exactly the same. If I'm feeling that sense of heaviness or overwhelm, or it's just busy, or that hamster wheel feeling, I'm doing a lot but I'm going nowhere.
Yeah.
I will resist journaling for 3 days.
Okay,
Journaling will fix it.
Yes.
I could actually sit down and clarify it. No, I'm too busy. I'll send that email.
Exactly.
Facebook Live. I'll record that reel. But then as soon as I sit down and I start writing, it's like I take a breath. And everything makes sense again. And so it's just remembering that feeling. I actually saw on Instagram, Elise Myers. I love her. She talks about being ADHD. And
okay, cool.
She's a singer and she wants to be an actress. And she was talking about her ADHD compulsion to avoid having a shower. And she was sharing on a reel, like, it's been 2 days, maybe even 3 days since I've had a shower. And I know that shower will feel heavenly. And I know it will be amazing. And I know that feeling will be brilliant. But between now and having a shower, I will be in so much resistance. And we just do that to ourselves. And I definitely feel the same about journaling. It's something that's so powerful for me. Also, even like making a vision board.
Exactly.
Doing something creative.
And that's something else I've been doing, Tash. I went, because I'm like, right, I want to tap back into it, because I have been feeling like I've lost that spark a little bit. So I think it was yesterday, I was looking through, I have a Pinterest, like a private board on Pinterest with my goals. And what's called goals. And I just have images of like events to inspire events I want to do, and like gorgeous homes and just things. And just re-looking at that and remember and adding things to it. And I'm a visual person, so I really like doing that. But I'm like, actually, I think if I print one out and stick it up, that would be better, because then it's always there. Do you have one printed and stuck up?
We normally do, but we haven't got one at the moment because we need to refresh and get clearer. Because I found last year, because I was so unwell, and I had, my mind had ideas, but my body couldn't keep up. I actually found that having this vision board with big things like buying a giant beach house and traveling the world, and all that thing, looking at it made me feel exhausted, and it felt like pressure. So I had to take a bit of time away from that and just practice routine and practice. Just my goal was an hour at the desk, right? So I had to shrink things right back. But now from the start of this year, I've really started to feel like my energy is picking up. I am having more and more long stretches of good days. And so I'm feeling itchy to get that vision board up on the wall again. And so, I think it's important that we pay attention to how it makes us feel. And
this is true, Tash.
Normally a vision board makes me feel inspired and, it makes me feel energized. But last year, it just didn't have that effect on me. And it was really good to just acknowledge that, take it down, focus on something different. So we actually have, I think I've got one here. So David and I created this little card of what does a tight day look like. So it's like Toit days. So
what's Toit Day?
Toit, it's from Brooklyn Nine-Nine when they got married.
I've not heard.
But anyway. So we just had this little card that we made of what we do each day, what feels like a good day. And so that's actually what's up on my wall at the moment, is like what feels like a good day, rather than big long-term vision. It's just like, let's have a good day today. Let's have a good day.
But you know what? I think that's what it all boils down to. Like, what does that ideal day look like?
Yeah.
for everyone. And for me, it was like, yeah, waking up, walking the kids to school, get back, work, like just actually thinking, what does it look like that day look, because that's what life is. It's the days in it.
It is.
And it's like, well, what do I want to be spending my days doing? And also just on that, Tash, I did tap out of listening to business podcasts for a couple of months. I feel like the last 3 months I've been like out of work a little bit, out of business a little bit, just because Lando's been like, people say like babies wake up after a few months. That's definitely what happened. He slept like so much to start with. And I'm like, oh, this is fine. I can still work. And then it was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. And I did find it a little bit like, oh, I don't really want to be listening to business podcasts right now. I'm just not in that headspace. But now, because I'm like, yeah, I've made a plan. He's going to do some childcare. I'm going to have a little bit of time for work. I'm like excited to listen to them again. I think that's why I was going back. Okay, what's the vision? Where's my Pinterest goals board? What am I focusing on? Let's vision where I want to be. And I think that's kind of natural, isn't it? We go in ebbs and flows. And I think as well, I kind of see it like a pie with 3 sections, and life and business. And one section or one part of that pie is life. And for you, that's kind of been a huge part for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
For me, baby, pregnancy, figuring out how to be a mum, that's been a huge part. And so just naturally, like our time pie, the marketing and sales, which is one part, and then the actual delivery, they might get a little bit smaller perhaps. And I think for me, I've stayed very focused on the delivery with my students, but that means the marketing and the sales, just I don't have capacity and brain space and all that type of thing. That's how I look at it anyway. And it's just always going to be like shrinking and expanding those different parts of the pie, depending on what's going on in life and then what's going on in business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I would give people having through my experience is like the guilt about wishing it was a different way doesn't actually contribute to making it a different way as well. And so for me, when I just accepted, well, now's not a time to go for this ginormous beach house goal. Now is the time to focus on just having some good days. It was like a huge relief. And then all of a sudden I had more good days. All of a sudden, like I felt more effective. And I think sometimes we try and cling to what's worked for us in the past, or what we think we should be doing, or what we should be more ambitious, or we should want to work more hours, or whatever those things might be. We cling to those for a little too long, but actually when you let them go, there's so much more that becomes possible and available to us. And so being able to share some of these stories from behind the scenes, I think it really does help people to acknowledge how they're feeling and to accept, sometimes you don't want to be getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning before the kids get up just because some random dude said that that's the only way you're going to succeed. I have this thing that I've been saying a lot, like I do not care to see another sunrise. So as long as I live, right? I don't need to see a sunrise. I'm happy to sleep through them. The sun will rise without me. The sun will rise while I'm in bed, and that is totally fine. And especially when I first started my business and hearing all those messages about the 5 a.m. club and getting up early and all that sort of thing, I did feel like, I should want to do that. I should want to have that drive and that ambition. But I found more success by accepting I don't want that type of ambition. My type of ambition is different, and I'm just going to accept it and I'm going to embrace it. So what a powerful combo, Emily.
Absolutely. And I think as well, it's almost like you look at people that maybe do that and it's like, that's all very well that your business is like that, but how many hours are you putting in? And is that really the life that you want? Are you really like happy? And like, that's amazing that they are, if they are. But again, it's like, what feels good to us? What do we actually want? What does that day look like? And to me, it's like space and creativity and some connection and some downtime and like just, I don't know, figuring out what that is.
I think for a lot of my audience as well, like, and for myself, I didn't just start my business for financial freedom. Yes,
definitely.
Financial freedom was part of the picture. But time freedom was also a big factor for me, and
Mm.
lifestyle was a big factor
Yeah.
for me as well. I
Yeah.
didn't want to get to 65 years old and then
Yeah.
be allowed to go on holidays, you know?
Totally.
I really love connecting back in with those initial drivers of why I
Mm.
wanted to start my business,
Yes.
because for me, it was never just the money. There
Yeah.
was a financial factor to it, and I'm very open about the financial part of
Mm.
it. But there were many other reasons that I wanted to start my own business
Yeah.
beyond that money. And so making sure that I keep those front of mind makes a big
Mm.
difference to the decisions that I make.
Definitely, Tad. Because I wanted to ask you actually around, yeah, how you have, I guess, how you feel about and how you've processed and you're still in it, but this time in your life when your health has needed so much of you and you
Yeah.
haven't been able to execute on ideas
Yeah.
and your thought process. And you did explain that it's almost kind of right. Once you almost like accept and then embrace where you are now, that
Mm.
pressure that we just put on ourselves then can be let go.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, when I went and had my surgery in 2021, I was expecting 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the expected recovery time. So I thought I was being very generous by allocating 12 weeks. Like I gave myself 12 weeks off. And
Yeah.
like I pre-recorded podcasts for 12 weeks. I
Yeah.
had my team all set for the 12 weeks. And so it was unexpected and also very unknown. I just wasn't healing.
Yes.
My energy was really low. And so for me, it ended up being about 8 months that I was away from my business and doing the very bare minimum. And I mean, like maybe 2 hours a week for 8 months. And so it was almost like, initially I kept trying to tell myself, no, I'll be fine next month. I'll be fine next month. And I did. I got to that point where I thought, if I just keep wishing that next month is going to be the answer, I won't set my team up for success. I won't set my business up for success. I will just constantly be pushing things to next month and making next month worse and worse and worse. And so, yeah, there was a lot of having to come to grips with the fact that it wasn't the picture that I expected. And I think it's the same. I'm not a mum, but I think it's the same. That's the same story here from mums, right?
Yep.
I'm going to have my 12 weeks maternity leave and then I'm going to come back and everything will be fine. And
exactly.
we'll sleep lots and all of those sorts of things. But, you know, for mums, a lot of the time I hear them say things like, even when the baby's sleeping, I'm listening for the baby. And there's a lot to be said for the brain space that takes up. And so for me, it was, even though I've got some good energy for the next hour, I don't know if it's going to last.
Yes.
And so do I embark upon a project that I'm going to need future energy for to finish? Or do I just keep the fires out, right? Do I just fight fires for now because I don't know if I'm going to get another good day for another few days?
Definitely.
So yeah, there was a lot of coming to terms with that. And it took a lot to accept that was the way that it was going to be. But when I did, and when I had a big conversation with David about, you know, talking about this multi-million-dollar beach house is making me feel tired and pressured, and I don't think it's productive anymore. It was a huge shift for me. And it just allowed me to focus on now and focus on healing and focus on looking after my body. And yeah, it was really tough financially. I didn't have a membership like you, Emily. So for me, my income does rely quite heavily on marketing. I had a lot of payment plans because for my takeoff program, I did an extended payment plan before my leave. So I had a lot of people on 10-month and 12-month payment plans. So I was very fortunate about that because I did still have that baseline income. But as those payment plans started to finish, that was when there was like another wave of, okay, well, I now am not having enough consistently coming in to pay the team and pay myself. We're going to have to make some changes. So yeah, it was really tough. And, you know, I still find it quite challenging because I was so on track for $1 million year. And that milestone felt really important to me. And I had said I wanted to do it before I was 40. Now I'm 41. All of those things.
41,
There's a bit
so
of
good.
mourning, like, oh, I
Yes.
didn't make that, or I didn't achieve
Yeah.
that goal. But I think ultimately I am so grateful. I have to keep reminding myself I didn't have to ask anyone for sick leave.
Yeah.
I don't have to convince anyone that I need the day off today. I just
Mm.
get to decide. And
Mm.
that is so powerful to me.
Mm.
And so, what ended up happening for me a lot last year was I would be on the couch, absolutely gone. Like, I just couldn't even get off the couch, couldn't think straight. I couldn't even
Yes.
watch a screen. I couldn't watch
Yeah.
Netflix. Like, I just had to like stare off into space. But I would ultimately be overwhelmed with the gratitude
Mm.
that I could do that.
Mm.
That I have a life
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
where I can sit on the couch and I can stare off into space
Yeah.
and the world doesn't end. And I don't have
Yeah.
anyone yelling at me that I should get back to work. And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that I started this
Mm.
business. I'm really, really
Mm.
grateful for the life that I have. And
Mm.
I feel like now, as my energy's coming back, as I'm really
Mm.
healing, things are starting to make a lot more sense. My brain is working more
Mm.
effectively. It's like, wow, I never went back to square one. I never had to start
Yes.
over from scratch.
Yes.
Even if my income dropped down to
Mm.
starting from scratch,
Yeah.
I have an audience, I have
Yeah.
momentum, I have a mailing list, I have
Exactly.
experience, I have the products, the programs, the assets. So all of that is not wasted.
Totally, Tash. I can so resonate with that.
Oh!
Yeah. And I think as well, I've got to say, like, the becoming a mum for me, that was a choice. And for you, your illness and, well,
Yeah.
the surgery and then the recovery wasn't a choice. So there's that difference there. But yeah, I was definitely like, I don't know why, but I was like, yep, 3 months, pre-record everything, get it pretty organized. That'll be good. And then I think I thought, and then it will be childcare time. But then it got to the 3 months. And I think I was just like, it was too hectic. Like, I
Yeah.
was figuring out this baby, he was changing. I was like, and then like the same thing as you. It's like, no, next month will be fine. Or it was like next week, it'll be fine. Next week, I'll have this sorted. Next week, like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it'll be fine. Didn't happen. So then it's like, okay, well, what do I want? What feels good to me? Let's not look at what every other mum is doing or what other people's opinions are, but what feels right to me. What do I want my week to look like? And let's make decisions based on that. So, but yeah, it's super interesting. Oh,
Beautiful. All right. Well, I don't want to take up too much more of your time. You've got Lando to get back to, but a couple of quick things.
yes.
First of all, you have a brilliant freebies page. So I just wanted to highlight to everyone, we'll put the link to that in the show notes of today's episode, but do make sure that you go and check out Emily's freebies page because she has classes there and resources. Her podcast is also absolute.
Oh,
So
Tosh.
make sure you check that out. So we'll link to all of those things in the show notes. But Emily, in closing,
Yes.
if I was to quote you on something that we've talked about today, what is it that you would like me to say?
I think the quote or the phrase that I come back to, and I know that my members come back to, is connection over perfection.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of thing you're looking for right now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Connection over perfection, because that does apply to Instagram, right?
Yeah.
If you don't need
Yeah.
perfect Instagram feed, you just need to connect with your audience.
Mm.
But it also applies to what you're talking about in terms of that, stage of life that you're in and
Yes.
creating that leverage, because it's connecting to what you want rather than looking for the perfect outward facing business or
and also
or the perfect marketing strategy. Yeah.
And also I'm kind of excited now because I need to, this is something that I was just going to mention, like when Lando was sleeping, I'm like, oh, this is great. I got way more time than I thought I did. I'm going to reposition some things. I'm going to message some things. Going to restructure the collective, so now it's actually combined with the scalable content in the collective.
Oh, wow.
Take people from booked out to then scaling.
Yeah.
But I need to get my funnel up and running. And I'm like, oh, and then you basically, I had way less time than I thought. So now I'm going to be creating my whole sales funnel afresh, but on definitely part-time hours to do that. And so I'm really excited to see what that looks like, new strategies that I'm going to create and then be able to share those with people in the way that it's like, hey, doesn't have to be this huge, big thing. I get it. I'm in there with you. I don't have all the time in the world right now, but I'm going to do this in a way that it is manageable for me. And I'm going to track it and see what works and make it amazing. And then I'm kind of excited to share that. So I think as well, it's like, hey, things are never perfect anyway. And if it is like, marketing really is about building connections with people and like forget. And for me, I'm a perfectionist. So it's like, this is my quote for myself too, to just like throw that out the window, just get stuff out there, just do what you can now in the best possible way that you can. And that's going to it's going to work. That works.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited to keep up with all of this behind the scenes. I think this is really fascinating, and to be able to learn from, what you discover in the process of setting that up is going to be so valuable for everyone in the collective. So that's absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for joining me on the podcast. I'm so excited to have you on stage at the Heart Centered Business Heart Centered Business Conference.
I cannot wait.
It's going to be so amazing. And also, anyone listening along, if you don't have your ticket to conference, if you come and grab the link at the show notes, I'll also put Emily's coupon code, which will get you $50 off your ticket. So make sure that you come over and check it all out and get your ticket to come to conference, and you'll be able to meet Emily in real life.
And it's in Noosa. Best place ever. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. Until next time, we cannot wait to see you shine. Bye for now. Would you like more tips, tools, and resources to help you grow your heart-centered business? Head to tashcorbin.com today.